All right, guys, welcome to the third episode of the Adventure RX podcast brought to you by Pinpoint Physical Therapy. My host is Nick Anderson, located out in Cleveland, Ohio. Not much skiing out this way. My guest today is LJ Strenio, one of my favorite skiers of all time. Multiple accolades to talk about. We can get into some of that. I think my favorite would be the bronze at the X Games with the Real Street video, which was just out of control overall. I want to definitely get into some of that. I'd love to talk to LJ about, what he's got going on and some of his career. We'll reminisce a little bit and talk about skiing. So welcome, LJ. Why don't you tell everyone what you've been up to the last few years? You've been off the radar for a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me, Nick. Excited to reminisce on all the good times and all the shredding over the years. Yeah, spent most of my life in what a lot of people call the golden era of freestyle skiing. Really
Absolutely.
fortunate to be a part of, a lot of the, I guess, upswing of different types of content, whether it be, web series or the advent of social media, for better or worse, maybe, but a lot of contests as well, just overall growth of the sport. But yeah, we all get older, I guess, and I've since, being in my mid 30s now, looked into kind of life after professional skiing. Wanted to be able to buy a house and support a family someday. So found a passion for computer science and then data science, actually. And so now I'm trying to navigate life as a remote data scientist, which is fun, but it has its difficulties as well.
Sure. Where are you out right now? Where are you living?
But yeah, good question. I'm in Portland, Oregon. My now wife and I were living in Utah during those kind of golden years of skiing. But as we were getting older, looking for somewhere to plant roots for a little longer, having been there in Utah for about 10 years, we wanted to find somewhere that still had good skiing, but had a lot of other things we were looking for too. I was falling in love with surfing. I was applying to schools in the area here. So yeah, I ended up here in Portland, Oregon.
Nice. How's Portland? I've never been out there. It's definitely on the list.
It's great, man. It's got its ups and downs for sure, but very outdoorsy between the coast and the mountains and everything in between. You can, if you're an outdoorsy person, you can find something for you. Also, a lot of culture and other stuff too, but those are the things that really motivate me or are big factors in where I decide I want to be.
Nice. Yeah, it's definitely on the list. I would love to spend some time out at Mount Hood. That's how far away is that from where you're at?
About an hour. With
Yeah, it's
traffic,
not.
it can be a little longer,
Yeah,
but not
it's
too
not
bad.
too bad. Getting into your skiing career, I want to get into really nuts and bolts of, what inspired you to go into pro skiing? Was it something you just happened to be really good at? And obviously you had the passion for it. Those opportunities probably presented themselves. Man, you started when you were pretty young, probably what, 16, 17, you started really competing and coming on the scene per se. What kind of started you off and what led you to move into being a pro?
So this started me off, I think, really early on. I gravitated towards action sports. I think the first one I ever did was one of my friends built a rail in his driveway and removed one of the wheels from his rollerblade. And so aggressive skating was my
Yeah.
foray into action sports. And by the time I was like 9 years old, I was doing front flips on like backyard ramps. And so I think that was like where the writing was kind of on the wall that I might be kind of driven to or compelled towards action sports and adrenaline related
For
stuff.
sure.
Then skateboarding was next, and then ski boards, line skis was out of Vermont, is out of Vermont.
Yeah. Do you remember
And so I
ski
bought
boards? Do
ski
you
boards.
remember Revel 8, the ski boards online, all that whole brand? Man, that was sick. I used to have some ski boards too.
Yeah, I still have some Revel 8s
Do you
from
really?
the
Oh
folks over
man.
there. Yeah, and some line ones from way back with
Oh
like
yeah. Way old school.
yeah. But so yeah, that's what led me into skiing. It was everything and anything that was kind of action packed.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. As you moved into, being a pro, what was like the maybe defining or the first opportunity that you had where it's like, okay, I'm going to be doing this, for a job now. I'm going to be making, money doing this?
Yeah. So, I mean, and I guess touching on your last question a little bit more too about the passion and what kind of led me there.
Yeah.
Um, skiing was definitely the first thing where, skiing was the action sport that I was really falling in love with in those formative years of like your early teens or whatever. It's the first sport where I was really aware of the culture, watching movies, and was probably the first time I had the awareness to think I would love to do this. I don't think that really factored into any actions I had. I just was so enthralled and in love with it that I just wanted to do everything I could to be better at it and be a part of it, I guess. And so, that means that I was going to every event, whether it was a local rail jam or a movie premiere or I was trying to always be the best of my friends, which might be one of the factors that leads to not just being in the industry, but pursuing it as a profession. But then I'd say some of my first kind of breaks in the sport were, I guess there was like a few different avenues. Winning the Young Gun Open when I was 16 is probably one of the biggest factors that made me realize I could maybe pursue this. It was this contest held by Mike Nick and Jason Leventhal,
Okay.
two folks running big ski companies at the time. And it was basically like a next whoever search contest where if you win this contest, they're going to sponsor you for at least a year. You get to go to some of these really high profile events.
Nice.
The Orage Masters at the time was this big event that was, the best of the best pros were there. And so I entered that contest when I was 16 and won one of the stops. And that was kind of, most of my career has been like a slow process, but this was one of those, catapulting moments
Sure.
for sure.
Was that you competed in the super unknown, correct?
Yeah, so that's another one that I did. I like very early on had a buddy put a video together for me and didn't win that. I was like a semifinalist. So got my name out there. Some people saw my video and touching on those other avenues that I saw some early success. Videos like that helped me get noticed by some of the local and maybe even slightly mainstream film crews like Meathead Films at the time were starting to grow and become better known. And filming was one of the things that, throughout my career ended up probably being the thing that I excelled more at. So opportunities like that to get to film with Meathead Films were probably also one of the, some of the bigger factors as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, now it's so different with all the social media. I think we're like the last nostalgic generation where I didn't really have video games growing up. It was like go outside and do a backflip off something or go on the trampoline or whatever. I think it's interesting now that the difference that, you see some of these kids that, we had a local guy in Cleveland. He moved out to Park City and he's out riding for Vishnu now and just filming on his phone and these little cameras and posting like crazy. And it's just such a different world coming up, I think, in the competitive ski scene now, where as you were coming up, it was, those heavy contests, the heavy filming, a couple videos a year potentially. I think it's just so cool now that it's so accessible and the skill now is just insane. You go out and, you spend a half a day out at Park City or at Copper and it's just the skill level is just insanity. These 12-year-olds are doing stuff that would win X Games 15 years ago practically. So it's just really cool to see the progression.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think the sport has just exploded since those early years. And like you mentioned, the landscape has changed so much now with how connected everything is. So I think it has gotten easier in a lot of ways, but I also think it's gotten more difficult in a lot of ways for kids as well. So yeah, it's just different more than anything, but super exciting to watch and absorb and get to take in, all the different stuff going on now. It's just
Yeah.
day by day, week by week, just completely new stuff going down constantly.
Yeah. I feel like I have every couple days something pop up on my Instagram feed. I'm like, what in the world, some jump trick. Now guys are doing the like the pretzel jump tricks with double, triple corks, pretzel in it, and just ate crazy stuff. A-Hall was doing some of that at the X Games, and yeah, it's so cool to see. But I think you have a good point where it's almost becoming, a lot of youth sports I see, it's so specialized now where, to make it in basketball and soccer, like basketball is AAU all year, travel basketball, high school, I would assume that these ski kids that are doing the ski school and lessons and the freestyle coaches, I mean, it's an all year round thing. And where I get concerned with any athlete that's really a solo sport athlete, research shows that if you're only doing one sport as an adolescent athlete, the injury risk is insanely high based on, overuse. It's the same motor patterns is essentially what's happening versus, doing skiing and maybe you're a soccer player where it's still activity, but the motor patterns are a little bit different. You're using your muscles in a different way. I see these 15, 16-year-old kids that are just out there and skiing all year round. It just, makes me a little bit worried for the future of some of these athletes. I know you've been through some of those injuries yourself, and, it's never a fun thing to be dealing with. And skiing and ACLs kind of go together. I don't know many skiers that haven't banged up their knee. But yeah, just that was one thought I had with the level that it's at now. Higher level, higher risk, more specificity in that sport.
Yeah, it is interesting, and something that I think is being seen in all types of sports. Like you mentioned, not even action sports, just team sports as well. And yeah, that the barrier of entry to succeed, is one of those like downsides as well, right? And that if you're not in maybe like a dedicated academy when you're really young, maybe you can't pursue these things, and then maybe if you're I can see a lot of kids maybe pushing themselves too hard too early, and having some of these injuries when they're maybe not strong enough or not developed enough to be taking some of the impacts on our sport are massive, and
Massive.
do require serious training to be able to take. And things like airbags are great because they allow kids to try really dangerous, really difficult things in a relatively safe environment. But when those are taken to snow, to the really serious make or break environment, and do go wrong, if you're not training or you don't have that strength, I think you're putting yourself in a position where you can really, really injure yourself seriously.
Yeah, I would agree there. Some of the jumps now are open to the public. Never used to be like that, even 10 years ago. I mean, you look back at the big jumps. I think Keystone had the biggest. Brex were pretty big, and even like 10, 15 years ago, some of the stuff open now is just mind-boggling how big open to the public it is. You see the PC jump is huge, the main one, massive jump.
Yeah.
With your career, were you one that, as far as like fitness and wellness, with a lot of those impacts, was it something that you were pretty regimented about as far as strength and conditioning and cardio? Was it something that you hated doing and you did it anyway? Or, talk me through like maybe, at the peak of your career, what was your fitness and strengthening look like?
Yeah, good question. So I was kind of more of a natural jock than a
Okay.
driven or motivated one. I never liked to go to the gym and train for anything in particular, but at the same time, like a huge part of my lifestyle is constantly running. I run every single day, varying distances, but I have like a general workout that I do, and not just related to my legs. I do, big fan of doing like push-ups and pull-ups and bench press, and and also adding in like interval training and sometimes like hills and different stuff like that. So while I never enjoyed going into the gym, even today, I would say that like maintenance related exercise is a huge part of my life, and definitely at the height of my career was as well, if not in a very dedicated or gym setting, I guess.
Gotcha. And as your career progressed, did you feel like it was something that you needed to put a little more TLC into your body, into prepping and like that preventative maintenance work? Is that something that was on your mind more often, or pretty much the same routine as you went?
I would say my injuries were big factors into my own awareness of those things. When I was a lot younger, or maybe not even a lot younger, but when I was in my late teens and early 20s, you feel invincible at that age, at those ages, and you can get away with a lot, especially when you're naturally active anyway. But then when you do find yourself getting bit and having to take a step back and consider a lot of these things, I feel like that's when you take stock in what's important to you and what needs to be done to maintain those things. And so I would say that, yeah, some of my like more serious injuries in my early 20s were what led to me paying attention to those things and doing them more mindfully and purposefully rather than out of enjoyment. And I would say that, yeah, the second half of my career, I found myself doing those things more for a reason than enjoyment, but enjoying them all the same.
Right. More out of a necessity than anything to keep you moving. With that major injury you had, that patella fracture, more than a fracture, call it what it is. It was a patella implosion on that urban spin onto the rail. I'll link the video in the notes for people to watch that. Yeah, I remember watching that years ago, and that was before I was really interested in healthcare or fitness or anything. And I'm like, man, he's never going to walk again. I mean, that was insane. And I know you had some physicians tell you that you're not gonna ski again. And obviously that's heavy to hear. But the physician isn't you, right? Like they're not the skier. So talk me talk me through, what that rehab process was like. I'm sure it was over a year process, pretty gnarly surgery and rebuild. What was that like as far as both the physical hurdles, but then also psychologically taking skiing away for at least a year, if not more?
Yeah, man, that was the most difficult challenge in my career that I'd experienced. And yeah, definitely not only a physical battle, but maybe even more so a mental battle. I had surgery on both of my wrists individually. I just broken my wrists skiing and snowboarding. And not being my legs, I didn't take physical therapy seriously,
Okay,
and
that's
I
fair.
don't. I have yeah, and so I have super limited motion in both my wrists actually. Having not taken it seriously and just yeah, now my wrists just don't really bend back anymore. But so this injury, obviously being essential. You can't get around a knee injury and come back to skiing. So if that's what you love, I was forced to take it really seriously. But but yeah, I would say like right off the bat, just having doctors tell me that that I was never going to be a competitive skier again, that I could walk. This was in a foreign country, so the doctors wanted to operate right away. It
Man,
was in Europe,
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, it was scary, but it was Finland, so like good doctors and everything, but they were telling me that I needed a knee replacement, that they couldn't salvage it.
holy
And so
cow.
that was just terrifying to hear, like an hour after I was like getting ready for the next Dew Tour contest and filming the street part, and then an hour later they're telling me that they need to replace my knee entirely and that I'll never ski again. That was really tough. So I feel like you just go into survival mode at first and just trying to, assess the situation, take in all of the information that you can to make the best decisions when the decisions come up. I ended up flying home, seeing my doctor in Utah. They were able to thankfully perform surgery and kind of bring everything back together without it needing replacement. He was, really Dr. Kubiak is really active in lots of like sports medicine, I guess, whatever it may be called.
Yeah.
And so was really familiar with like injuries like this and people like me who were very dedicated athletes. And so was confident he could get me back to 100%. And so a lot of pain at this stage, obviously. The surgery was crazy painful. Flying with the injury was really painful.
Oh,
And just, all of the unknowns were really tough mentally. But then, moving forward towards rehab and just being all in with my physical therapy and just trying to get to 100%, it often wasn't easier. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so there were
absolutely.
weeks where things didn't get better. They're telling you not to get your hopes up and just to stay calm, but Every kind of week where you didn't get added range of motion, or it was hurting more all of a sudden, or the swelling was going up, it was so hard to, it was just trust the process, and just keep your head down and keep grinding and just doing what needed to be done. Taking those little victories and those little gains, and taking a step back and seeing the progress at scale that you're making were all things that helped me mentally keep pushing forward, because like you said, it was before
Right.
I would consider myself 100% again. And even when I got cleared to ski, even that was really tough for me mentally, because
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, he was saying the bone is healed, but it's going to be tough for you because your muscle mass isn't there. But like, you're not going to hurt it. So go ski, have fun. And it was so
Right.
painful that I wasn't enjoying it. And I was like, if this is skiing, I don't want to ski anymore.
Yeah.
So that
That's
was really
heavy.
mentally difficult.
Yeah, after all that rehab. And then an athlete of your caliber, you see these NFL guys that tear an ACL or an Achilles, and the announcers, oh, they'll be back in 9 months and 12 months, whatever. But you guys at the top of the game, maybe for a normal person, sure, 9 to 12 months, you can get back to running and the normal sports. But the higher up you go in athleticism and that athlete status, you were up there for a reason. You had, a genetic and physical component, mental component that allowed you to get to that point. And when you're injured, it takes a little bit longer, right, to like restore yourself back to that mountain of where you were at. Yeah, man, that's a gnarly one. How is the knee now? Do you have to do any maintenance on that thing continuing, or is it pretty good?
So far, so good.
Yeah, good.
Like I said, I run every day, still skiing and snowboarding, surfing, all sorts of stuff.
Awesome.
There were like, there's things I noticed for sure. The range of motion. My kneecap is physically larger than it was before the injury, and I spent months and months and months trying to not only strengthen but also get that range of motion back, and break up a lot of that scar tissue. But
Right.
it's not the same, but I am not held back by it. So
Good.
very grateful to all of the medical professionals that helped me along the way.
Yeah. Was there a specific therapist, and you can shout out a name if you want to, but someone that really got you through some of those darker times? The first couple months is rough, man, with any orthopedic surgery.
Yeah, so hope I remember his name. He's like a big dog at the University of Utah
Okay.
Physical Therapy Center. But I think his name was it Tim King, maybe? One of my friends became a physical therapist, and he told me that it was that he was one of his instructors and runs
Gotcha.
the program. But
Nice.
I'm spacing on his name. But yeah, I mean, this one physical therapist alone is like I emailed him when I won that X Games medal. I sent him an email just saying, like,
That's
just
awesome.
telling him thank you so much. Like, this is years and years later, but just knew that that was a big accomplishment for me in my life. And so the first person I thought of was him, because it
That's
definitely would
awesome.
never have happened.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's a very rewarding career. We get to spend more time with patients than essentially any other healthcare clinician might get to. Speech therapists and occupational therapists are kind of set up in the same way, but it's just getting that one-on-one time with. I like to work with athletes here as well, and just getting them back to obviously what they like to do, right? I mean, that's what life's all about. The fun stuff. We can go to work and do all that stuff too, but getting back to those hobbies, or for you as a career, it's so much fun for me to see that, and that's awesome that it was one of the first guys you called. Love that.
Yeah, I think the sentiment was the same as well, because I mean, there's all sorts of people going to physical therapy for all sorts of things, but
Sure.
I think it was fun working with me because I was excited to be there. It was, my whole life revolved around this. So like, we would go in the hallway and I'd like drag him in like a sled and
Yeah.
I'm doing all these like wall jumps
Right.
and like multiple stair one-legged hops and trying to break my personal best. I really wanted to come in on the last day when I knew when I first started skiing, I had a big guy, my strength and all of the like stats we were measuring had digressed a ton when I went on this big ski trip to New Zealand, and I was super bummed out about it, and came back and was like, what are we going to do? I'm like, what's going on? And he was just like, he was like a rock. He was like, we're going to double down and we're going to do all these exercises. You're going to get back. And I remember coming in after 3 months beyond when I had originally been cleared to ski. I thought I was done then.
Yeah.
And no, I had months left. But so when I finally knew I was 100% and that I was done and that I didn't need to come in anymore, I don't think I did this, but I remember thinking I should do a backflip like on the mat right in there. Cause I
Yeah.
love doing backflips on flat
Yeah.
ground to be like, hey, what do you think? It seems like it works pretty good, but I never did.
That's a new one for me. Flat ground backflip. We'll add that into the return to sport testing. Some of my
I like
people.
it.
Yeah. I love that. So, when I was watching you growing up, you were always, it seemed like you were charging, man. Like some of the line videos, especially the X Games segment, the one specifically was flipping onto that cement pillar. I mean, dude, what was the thought process and why onto a cement pillar? I watched it the other night again. I'm like, dude, you were taking some slams and you stomped it after I don't know how many tries, but that was insanity. Was risk something that you weigh the same as when you were younger as you got a little bit older into your career? Was that something you ever thought about? Because in my head, it's like, man, this guy's charging. That's probably not much of a concern.
Yeah, thank you. I'm definitely proud of that one. I would say risk throughout my entire career was always something, even when it doesn't look like it, is something that I'm considering really carefully. And I would say that anyone that reaches a high level of accomplishment in any sport, as reckless as they may seem, just statistically, is probably weighing their risks and not getting lucky with all of the opportunities to take risks that we have. And so I think I always like to say that risk we're taking risks, yes, but like calculated risks, constantly assessing. And so with that trick, especially, yeah, I mean, it definitely was scary and super dangerous. And it's an ebb and flow. When you're given an opportunity, that X Games opportunity was late in my career, and after a full career where making a film segment to hit rails was not an option. And so, having this late in career opportunity to potentially win an X Games medal, it was definitely something that made me more willing to take risks than maybe other points in my career, even when I was younger. And so yeah, I took a lot of, maybe some of those calculations, the threshold was a little lower or higher, I guess, for risk taking in some of those moments, just because it was such a big opportunity. But that particular feature and trick kind of just, it kind of just came up. We found the feature and had no idea what we were going to do there, but just seemed like something that we could hit and figure something out. And then, knowing that I needed to go all in, the idea of the backflip kind of came later. It was first kind of, here's this really cool spot, and then nothing was really materializing. It was like, there's not much we can do with this. And then I don't know where it came from, but somewhere in my head, I was just like, a backflip onto this would be insane.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, that competition, the feel of competition probably pushed you a little bit for that segment, I would say.
Yeah.
Really sick segment. We all voted for you, so it was cool to see someone from our generation out there putting it down.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
getting into later stages of your career, was it something you could kind of see winding down? Was there a specific moment where it's like, yeah, maybe, I got to move on to the software development and coding, computer sciences, or was it more of a slow build type of thing?
It was a little of both. I would say the planting of the seed in my mind was kind of this slow building thing in the back of my head, seeing my mentors and older friends who were, heroes of mine in skiing
Right.
move on sometimes for better. One of my favorite rail skiers growing up was Yannick Brule. He's actually a software developer, and his family and him are in San Francisco. And so seeing someone who was he was a rollerblader before that, seeing someone like him move on and be successful, but then seeing other guys move on and maybe not struggle, but not have I didn't want, I was seeing some folks where I seemed like, the peak for them was their ski career. And that is definitely true of me as well. But I always wanted to accomplish other things or be more multidimensional than just someone who was really successful in skiing. And so a lot of these different things kind of led to the idea. And I guess, yeah, as I entered my late 20s and found myself no longer competing, but just filming and just not feeling like a standout anymore. Didn't feel like I was, pushing the envelope as much anymore. And these injuries playing a part as well.
Sure.
Somehow came across the idea of going back to school. Once the seed was planted, it just really grew. And then I kind of went all in with that too.
Yeah. No, I love that. Every athlete gets to that point where you kind of see the writing on the wall, I guess. And what you see a lot in the news is the bad stories of, I don't know what the stats are for the NFL and NBA, but guys that are essentially going bankrupt and, they don't really have a plan after sport. Like your story is so cool because, you get out of this high adrenaline, competition career and you're able to kind of repurpose and re-steer your life successfully. I don't think a lot of you don't see the good stories like that often. It's always like, oh, the NFL has a 50% bankrupt rate. You always see all the crappy stories. So it's cool you're being a role model for maybe some of the guys that are in their early 20s, mid 20s coming up and looking for something to do after skiing. It's a really cool story, LJ. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. It can be tough, and there's no right or wrong way to do any of it. And I think going to school while pursuing a professional career in anything else can seem to many like not being all in with what it is you want to do. But I always thought if you work twice as hard, then you can still, you're not skiing at night.
Right.
I'm sure there is, being real, there is sacrifice that comes, but I think just like, maybe my knee isn't 100% anymore. Well, if I work that much extra harder, I can still function at 100% maybe. If I'm working at 110%.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. A couple quick one-shooter questions. Who's your skiing GOAT and why?
Tough one.
Just
I feel
one.
like right now, I feel like Henrik Harlow. He's
Penny. Oh,
he
yeah.
has done so much. I know it should probably be like a past. There's so many guys in the past that built up to that, but man, his career, even, if he never skied another day, and he's just done so much for the sport as well, not just for himself, just so passionate and so multidimensional. Got to give it to Henrik.
Yeah, Idolo. Oh, you see a guy like that, and I love to ski. It's my favorite thing. But then I see him, I'm like, that guy loves to ski. I mean, that's the embodiment of freestyle skiing for sure. His what was it, Nosebud trip in the X Games when he's talking to Tanner, you see the backstage video and he's like, "Man, I don't know if I want to do it. It would be sweet to win it with a double." And Tanner is like, "Man, you got to do it for the history books, kid." It's just such a cool moment there.
Yeah, and I feel like that like probably inner monologue that he was having in that moment is illustrative of him being the GOAT. Like most people would just be like, I'm going to do the craziest thing that I possibly can. But
Right.
he has this inner conflict about, doing things that aren't focused on style, which is so important to our
Sure.
sport. So
Absolutely.
to have that conflict and then doing something that had never been done and is without a doubt one of the biggest breakthrough tricks ever, and doing
For
it
sure.
with that whole story, yeah, I think just is just case in point.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to him being skiing, like the ski culture. He was so concerned with, man, a double would be sick to win it. Maybe I don't got to do the future triple spin to win it, but yeah, such a cool story. Another one for you. If you had to go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, maybe it would be about skiing, maybe it'd be about your career, training, risk taking. What would that advice be? Maybe something you could shout out to the younger Groms out there that are, shredding copper in Park City right now.
Tough one too. I would say Uh, I would say, stay passionate, keep perspective and make sure you're in it for the right reason. I think something that's been true for me my whole life is just trusting my gut and following my passions. If you love something and it's all you want to do, then if you're I won't say that you will succeed in it, but if it's a possibility, that's your best chance. And so I think, in an age of influencers and likes and social media and all this other stuff, I think keeping perspective and knowing what you love and letting that lead you, whatever your path may be, is the best advice that I could give.
Yeah, I love that. And even if it's not becoming a pro skier yourself, you could still stay in the industry. You could become a physical therapist that likes to work with skiers. You could work on the media side. You could get into teaching and coaching freestyle or racing, whatever it may be. You could be a tour guide. There's plenty of options for sure, even if you don't have the natural talent to make it big as a pro.
Right. Yeah. And that passion for skiing can lead you to those just as easily, even if they weren't the original desired destination, and still all, super awesome paths as well.
Exactly. What's next for LJ? What's the next chapter look like for you?
I'm figuring it out right now. It's been a massive lifestyle adjustment for me, and even seeing it coming, and going back to school and all this preparation for it, it has been really difficult for me. So just trying to navigate my late onset adult life is what's been next. I recently got married. Now
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And then what's the next big adult thing is looking into buying a house. And so currently, undergoing that, but also trying to learn how to be, I guess, not only an effective data scientist and have the right career growth, but also just adjusting to a very different lifestyle. Things I could take for granted previously, like staying active and eating healthy, maybe not needing to eat healthy as often, are now like these things that I'm learning so late in life. The importance of going for a run before work every day is it's like one of the most important things in my daily routine.
Nice.
Not just for the physical aspect, but to stay sane. But yeah, learning to do the things I need to do so that I can sit in front of a computer screen for that many hours a day has been is kind of the next work in progress. Not quite as romantic as going on ski trips with your friends, but necessary and not without its excitement and
Sure.
new experiences as well.
Yeah, it's exciting in a different way, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate the time with me. Always a big fan. Hopefully you can get some skiing in this winter, get out to Mount Hood or something, go hit some rails, go hike a flat tube, have fun with the kiddos out there. That's always we're in Cleveland, Ohio, and tiny little hill, and it's like rails. That's about it. And we hike flat tubes or pick the rail of the night, and we got the army of groms that are marching around with us, and everyone's throwing down, and I'm like the old guy out there now. So it's a lot of fun seeing these younger kids, so trying to keep the stoke alive for sure.
Yeah. I love the Midwest vibes. All the trips I've taken there have been the best. And I would say even, growing up on the East Coast, there's sometimes similar vibes as well. Or I guess I don't even know if you guys consider yourself Midwest or East Coast. Maybe somewhere in between.
We're Midwest technically, I guess.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to offend or anything, but yeah, it's been a pleasure chatting. I want to ask you though, like
Yeah, sure.
having spoken so much about everything I've done, I'd love to hear if you have any you know, I was thinking of a few different questions I might want to ask you, but the one that like stuck with me the most is with all of your expertise and all of the knowledge you've gained in the physical therapy world. I'd be so curious to hear like what kind of advice or what kind of things that you might see athletes doing wrong, whether amateurs or professionals, that
Sure.
with this massive knowledge base that you have, that you wish you could just take them and be
Yeah.
like, why
Right.
are you doing this, or why don't you do this? Something that seems so obvious to you, but maybe isn't.
So something that I use for most of my patients, and a lot of my patients are in some type of pain, whether it be from running or whatever, overuse injuries. I go the opposite way. I don't overcomplicate it. I get down to the basics. How's your hydration status? How's your diet? How is your sleep quality? Are you getting 8 hours of quality sleep? Are you tracking that? How's your protein intake? Are you supplementing? Are you taking creatine? Are you taking your omegas? How's your stress management? If you're extremely stressed, it's going to play a huge role on the central nervous system, on your brain, and potentially on systemic inflammation as well. What's your daily work look like? Are you sitting all day, not getting up, taking any breaks? What's your exercise and fitness routine like? And what's your relationship with exercise and with cardio, especially? If you don't have a relationship and you're in chronic pain, there's something you could change. So I consider that the base of health, right? And I think a lot of younger athletes get away with having a base that's a little sloppy. It's fine. You're young, you're strong, metabolism strong, you're still growing, but as we age, getting that base foundation correct, especially as you're an aging athlete, you want to keep doing the things you like to do. I would say aging's easy. You just got to get your foundation solidified. You got to eat 80-20 clean, 70-30 clean. Don't eat McDonald's and chicken wings every single day. You can have them once in a while, but relatively clean eating, you're hydrating, you're getting your sleep in. That stress management, a huge part. I feel like especially in men, it's just something that we don't simply talk about just culturally in this country very much. So I don't overcomplicate it. We get down to, if you're in pain and your foundation is poor, start there. Everything I can do for you or work with you, whether it be the massage work, the dry needling, the cupping, the strength and conditioning, that's the icing of the cake. I mean, that's going to bring you over the top. But we got to find that foundation, find movement patterns that can get you out of pain and help desensitize you some. And then, the icing is the rest of the treatment. You see some of the younger athletes that, you compare LeBron to like a Zion Williamson, who just essentially looks like he's out of shape consistently, overweight, and his foundation sucks, man. I don't know if it's his diet or what it is, but you got a guy like LeBron that's done it perfectly for 20 years. And, you look at some skiers, like Wallish is still shredding, it's getting that foundation right. I think is something that I like to preach quite often and not overcomplicate it too much.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And it's good to hear because I guess I try to focus on those things, but reinforcing it too, because it is sometimes easy to forget that you're not looking for like a silver bullet. It's
Right.
Yeah, these things that we all know we're supposed to do, but sometimes don't.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. The fancy tools or like the fancy answer, you see like peptide injections are huge right now. Injections in overall are huge, PRP and stem cell. And again, it's icing, man. If your foundation sucks and you're getting these injections and whatever else is the new shiny tool of the month, again, it's icing. And I had patients ask me consistently about these other modalities. I'm like, I wouldn't do it until you get your foundation built correct. Probably going to be a waste of money. You go and do this other stuff. The basics aren't fun and they're not pretty, but they're the basics for a reason, right? It's the base of health.
Yeah, totally. Interesting.
All right, man. I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate the time. I'm hoping to catch Andy on here the next couple months. He was just in Japan, I think, so I'm hoping to have Mr. Perry on here. I've met him a few times during the traveling circus, so that'll be a fun one. He's a funny guy. But I appreciate your time. It's always fun chatting with, a legend I've been watching for many years. I wish you all the luck with the housing market and your next chapter.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Nick. This has been a blast. So glad you're excited with how it turned out, and looking forward to listening to it. I'll tell Andy that we chatted in our little group chat, and
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
send
fun
him your
fun
way.
stuff. I'll be uploading these. I want to get a few more episodes built up. They'll be on Spotify and YouTube. I'll send them over once they're up.
Sweet. Yeah, sounds great.
All right, LJ. Appreciate the time. Have a good night, man.
Yeah, you too. See you, Nick.
Bye.